Welcome back. So I've been doing a lot of like vlogs and I enjoy that, but I think I would have even more fun just sitting and talking. And I think that's just what I'm gonna do. I think I'm just gonna sit and talk about different things and just post it. Kind of more of a podcast, to be honest, because I don't really want to edit a lot. I'm not one to tell a good story. I don't make sense. A lot of times I don't actually finish the story. I get lost and I get distracted. Um, this is Edward. Say hi, Edward. Say hi. Say hi, Eddie. He's a sweet boy. He's kind of a menace, though, also. Anyways, back to what I was saying. I don't tell good stories. And so a podcast is like not really my thing at first glance, but I love to write and blog. And I figured this is just an auditory version of my blogs, which I do really enjoy. And so I'm gonna have a layout of like specific things I'm gonna talk about, but for the most part, I'm just gonna kind of go for it. And I think that it could be a lot of fun. And yeah.
Growing up, in middle school and high school, I always struggled with having friends. Like extreme. Like I would be crying in my car to my grandmother because I had no friends and I wanted friends so bad. And it was a long time. Well, it felt like forever. It was probably only a couple of years before I had good friends. But that time where I felt so lonely was really, really hard. And I felt like I was just constantly sad. Like, I feel like my middle school experience was just a constant hell. Um, Up until my junior year of high school, I was sad, to be honest. Um, and up until my junior year, I wasn't medicated. And so um, there's a lot there that I would love to unpack regarding medication and in high school and mental illness. I think I struggled with a lot going into middle school, and I didn't know what was wrong with me. Um, I felt like there was constantly something wrong, and I was lucky enough to have a support system, really my grandparents that had experienced that with their children, and so my grandmother was able to kind of guide me through that and all of my emotions before giving me an antidepressant. When I was old enough to know, I was kind of old enough to make the decision for myself to start antidepressants, and it was the best decision I have ever made in my life. I remember I knew I needed medication when I remember sitting in my room talking to my uncle and about medication and just feeling so sad and hating my life and myself. And I remember just the thought coming to me of I don't even want to be happy. Like I genuinely I don't even I don't even want to try anymore. Like it's too hard. I'd rather just be sad. Life's easier when you're just sad, right? You want to stay in bed all day and you don't want to go out and talk to people. It's just so much energy and it's just not worth it. And I was at a point where I literally remember thinking, I don't even I want to be sad. Like I remember thinking I don't want to be happy because of the effort that it took. And that's when I knew I had a problem, because who doesn't want to be happy? And so when I knew that that wasn't me, that's not who I am, um, I knew I needed help and outside help. Like it wasn't enough to do it all on my own, even with people that love and support me and adults that knew where I was coming from. Like it still wasn't enough to pull me out of a depressive episode that was lasting for so long and being so miserable and wasting such important parts of my childhood. Um, And so I knew I needed help, and that's when I decided that I wanted to go and try out an antidepressant. And um, I did Lexapro. It's pretty common. Lexapro is common. Zoloft. Those are pretty. Those are common antidepressants used. And my mom was on Lexapro. And my grandma was on Lexapro. And my uncle was on Lexapro. And so I just spit a little bit. So I figured, maybe there's a genetic component here. So I went and I tried the Lexapro. And it took some time. And I was also trying other things. Whatever was making me anxious, I tried to push past it and do it anyways. And so there was a lot of that also. It wasn't just popping a pill, which I was worried about doing. I was worried that I wouldn't have the skills that I needed to live a happy and full life for the rest of my life, not just taking a pill that would allow me to not have to do the hard part. And so at the same time of starting the antidepressants, I started to open myself up at school. I met new people. I hung out with new people, even though it freaked me out and made me so nervous. I did it anyways. I tried new things. I met new people, like I said. And so that was also a big part of my middle school and high school. Well, I guess towards, like I said, junior year, I started the antidepressant, and that's when I really developed the ability to try those new and hard things. Because, like I said, it wasn't enough to just do the pill. Take the antidepressant, not like birth control, but it was, the antidepressant allowed me to be myself and have the energy to build these other skills that I needed and that I took with me till even now, like building new friendships, trying new things, doing things that scared me. And so, really just being able to do hard things, like that was something I could not do before I had the antidepressant. I had no energy, motivation, or desire to do hard things that were good for me. And when I started the antidepressant, I then had the energy and the desire to do hard things that I knew would be good for me. And so that was a pivotal moment in my life that allowed me to be happy and genuinely enjoy my life, which I felt like I wasn't for a really, really long time. I remember my Aunt Ada, I guess I shouldn't say the name. Anyway, so my aunt, I remember her coming to me, noticing that I was not living a great life, in the sense that I was in my room 24/7, 7 days a week. I was overweight. I was almost 200 pounds when I was between the ages of like 13 and 15. I was around 205, was my heaviest. I would not come out of my room when all the my cousins and aunts and uncles were over hanging out. I wouldn't hang out with them. I didn't want anyone to talk to me. I didn't want to talk to anyone. I didn't want to go to school. I wanted to do online. I just couldn't stand being in my skin and being somewhere where people could see me. And I remember her saying, obviously something's wrong. And obviously I couldn't see it at the time. I knew something was wrong, but I didn't know it was to the point where I thought it could be changed. And so my aunt, she said why, this was before I started the antidepressant, when I was still a little bit more put off from trying medication. She was like, she was like, you are wasting your life. You're wasting this time when you're supposed to be with friends, hanging out, having fun, and you're wasting it being sad and miserable. Medication could help that. It could fix that. Why would it be worth it to be miserable just for the sake of not being on medication? And obviously I mean, I was probably 14, 15. I can't remember my age when this happened, but I didn't understand it. I didn't see it. But later on, a couple months went by, and I was like, when I did get on the medication, I was like, oh, I see what she means. Like, all this time I wasted being miserable, stuck in my room, when there was this solution that I could have tried, and maybe I could have made friends sooner. I could have been happier sooner. I could have, you know, I could have had this whole life changing process earlier. So I wasn't miserable for so long. Like, I felt like I was miserable for so long. Like, and maybe it was only a year, but a year when you're 13 is a long time. And especially when you're stuck in your room and you hate yourself. And, well, just, yeah. So, anyways, um, I really benefited from medication. And I don't think that it's the first option in some cases. Like with my depression and anxiety, I try to do everything that I could before getting to medication. And my mother was an addict, and so I was really scared of turning into that. Which I think is pretty normal for children to see their parents struggle with abuse to be put off for medication. Um, but there are different types of medications, and I obviously wasn't doing Xanax or benzos or anything like that right off the bat. Well, never, but those ones are a little bit more harsher on your body, and an antidepressant wasn't the medication idea that I had in my head of this bad thing that can cause abuse and addiction and can be horrible and ruin your life and everyone around you's life. Like, that wasn't true. And so that's something I had to break regarding mindsets. I had to break that thought and trains of thought that I was less than, or I had to be scared of medication, or less than because I was on medication. A big thing that I realized was that medication can be something that allows you to be who you are. And before I went on antidepressant for the first time, I felt like I wasn't who I am. I didn't like who I am because I wasn't who I was supposed to be. I'm not someone that sits in my room all day, 24/7, not seeing a single person, eating the whole time. And obviously there's days where maybe I want to do that. But for doing that months on end, that's being sad. That's not someone that I wanted to be, or that's not something I would do now. So looking back, I realized, okay, that's not who I was, and that's not who I wanted to be. That's not who I am, period. And with medication, I'm able to be who I am, which is active and joyful and not sad 24/7 and not miserable and not completely hating my body to a point where I didn't want a single soul to see me. So yeah, medication helped me be me. And I think that if you were going through similar things like that, I think medication isn't something that you have to be scared of. I think it is something that you need to research and talk to a doctor about and talk to your family about, because a lot of depression and anxiety is genetic, and odds are if you're struggling with some of those things, someone that you're related to has also struggled with those things. Maybe not as severe, maybe in a different way, but chances are they have. And so it's important to talk to your family about it, and talk about medication with your doctor, with your family if you're close. And yeah, if you're miserable right now and feel like you can't get out of it and you feel stuck, maybe it's something that you look into. You know, there are so many things out there for you to succeed, and medication can be a tool that helps you do exactly that. And I'm proof of that, TBH. No, seriously, I am so grateful for my medication and for having a family that was so on board with helping me get help safely. And so, yeah, that's just something I wanted to start out on talking about, because that is really when my life like took such a 180 turn. Is that the right? Did did a 180? Did 360 would be full circle. I started back up, but I was night and day difference. So that would be, yeah, the 180. I did a 180 turn at that point in my life. So I don't know if that makes sense. Anyways, so yeah, um, I don't know what I don't know what I'm gonna name this podcast, or I don't know what I'm gonna name this little talk segment that I'm doing right now, but it will come and I'll let y'all know. So thanks for listening. Bye.